Welcome to the Power of Coaching, brought to you by the Daring Success Team. I am Hardy Brooklyn. I am a life coach from Brooklyn, New York, that helps people live a truly authentic life in an inauthentic world. I do this with active listening and asking the deep and troubling questions.
Hello, my name is Anna. I am from Milan, Italy. I'm a life coach on a mission to empower women on their journey to self-actualization and personal growth. I coach for empowerment, independence, assertiveness, and total self-acceptance. I'm a proud single mother and a feminist. And now over to you, Stan.
Thanks, Anna. I'm Stan. I am from Perth, Western Australia. I'm a moving forward and goal success coach, taking you from stuck to an extraordinary life. Over to you, Isabel.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I'm Isabel and I'm based in Ecuador. I'm a women's empowerment coach and I help professional, introverted women and female entrepreneurs to turn their doubts into success.
Thank you, Isabel. This episode, we're going to recap two workshops that we did. One was where coaches got to practice coaching, and one was where Isabel gave an amazing presentation on fear of failure. And through both of them, we worked on fear of failure. So Isabel, can you please define for us what fear of failure is to most people?
Well, fear of failure is usually being afraid of taking risk or stepping out of the comfort zone, thinking that they're going to fail or that people are going to tell them, oh, you failed and why did you do it? Or even just try to warn them and transferring their own fears, just like, no, you can't do it. You're going to fail.
What was one of the things that was a recurring theme that came up through both the workshop and the practice session was that when people fail, what's the one thing that they really need to do with the failure?
To look at it in a different way. I mean, we've got a different perspective. I mean, I'm sure if I talk to you, Hardy, I talk to Stan, if I ask you to define failure, it will be different. And another thing as well, you could feel like the fear of failure in one part of your life, but not in other, where you are very confident, right? So basically, regarding failure, we need to reframe it in a positive way, looking at it as a learning curve. And that's what we need to do to accompany our clients in that journey, to discover that failure is just a learning curve.
When I approach fear of failure, I don't really have much of a fear of failure because I look at failure as a complete learning experience. So it's never really considered failure. What types of questions can we ask our clients, Isabel, that bring that out and can kind of retranslate that failing aspect to a winning aspect?
Well, the thing is, first, assessing where it comes from, because it could be from an event they experimented themselves, like, I don't know, they tried to set their own business and they failed once. So they've got that memory. It's like an event in a memory. And so they won't take the plunge again, right? And but in that case, learn from your first failure as a learning curve, so you won't do it again and try again, right? So that's what I try to, and I'm like you, I'm fear of failure. I might have doubts, but I'm just thinking, I'm just going to go because that's where the magic starts. And that's where I'm going to find new people helping me or new opportunities. So I'm a bit like you. I don't see failure as negative.
Stan, is there anything you'd like to add on or ask Isabel?
So So if you've got fear of failure, other than switching it around, which is really good until it's you, and then you're like, how did that work? What are you doing to switch it around?
Well, I use a tool which is the self-inventory tool, where I look back at, or I ask my clients to look back at their big achievements. And based on past achievements, having a look what they've learned. And they put it on paper, right? Because sometimes we forget that we've got some fantastic skills. And when we've got doubt, when we are afraid of taking the plunge, we can go back to that list and tap into that list of skills and just say, okay, in that situation, I did that and I learned that skill, which I can use for my new project. And then you go back to get that confidence again.
What are some long-term things that
One of the
you
other
do?
questions.
Well,
Go ahead, Stan.
We've got a delay here. I was going to say one of the other questions we had was, what's the difference between the fear of failure and the fear of success?
it's different. Fear of failure is usually you're afraid of taking the plunge, and you're afraid of what people are going to say. If you fail, you don't have that confidence. The fear of success is more that sometimes you don't want to be in the limelight, right? Or you don't want to lose people on the way, because if you are successful, some people don't have the same pace as you, right? And sometimes you don't want the workload as well. And it's just like, yeah, I want to succeed, but I don't want to have to work so hard on that situation, on that project. So because it's going to change my life, right? So that's different. I wouldn't actually say that they are similar. For me, they are totally different. They are different emotions, different limiting beliefs as well.
Limiting beliefs you bring up, how do those fit into the failure matrix?
Well, I'm going to share my example, which I shared in the webinar, in the workshop. My dad was a successful manager, director, and then he decided to set his own business, and he tried 3 times and failed. And instead of actually showing us, for us as kids, that it didn't matter because he learned things, and it's good as well to try not to stay with doubts, and saying, okay, it's for me or not for me, so shutting the door. And so I stayed for a long, long time thinking, well, if you can't make it, I won't. And because for me, it was a role model, right? So I just thought, oh my God, if he can't do it, I won't. Until I realized that was his story. But that was assumptions. So sometimes we assume things or situation that's going to happen to us, which happen to others, and in general, in our environment. So we get influenced, but it's not our story. And we can rewrite that story. But that was assumptions. So sometimes we assume things or situation that's going to happen to us, which happen to others, and in general, in our environment. So we get influenced, but it's not our story. And we can rewrite that story.
And when I work with my clients, one of the things that we do when we're rewriting that story is we have to come to the realization that that story rewrite is going to have to happen over time. It's not going to happen in one day. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. Even after they stop working with me, they have to still keep rewriting that story, because otherwise we go back into that they go back into that old story. It's really hard to change a pattern that's ingrained in you, or even a learned pattern. So it is a process that we work with, and we do accountability. Stan, what are a couple of tricks that you use to find out where your clients' fear of failures are coming from?
I kind of like to. A lot of fears are kind of they're physiologically based, but often they're emotionally based as well. So I kind of like clients to look inside and then tell me where the fear is. Like, is it in your gut, in your knees, in your head? Then I like to kind of give it a description. What does it look like? Does it have to shift it? So, like, somebody might say, oh, it's a square circle. It's a square with a circle in it, and it's blue, and it feels rough. And then I say, well, can you make that square? Can you squish it and make it a circle? Can you make it a triangle? Can you change it physically? Often changes it emotionally as well.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Isabel. Our next practice session is going to be talking about personal power and self-talk. How do we start to use some of those things for preventing us going down the fear of failure route?
Well, first, self-talk, but positive
Well,
self-talk, right? So, talk to yourself as you are that fantastic entrepreneur, you are that fantastic person, right? And you just start talking to yourself in a different way. And when you make a mistake, because failure, making a mistake, it's part of failing as well. Instead of saying, you're stupid, just say, okay, I'm learning. Self-talk, positive self-talk.
Stan, do you have any closing remarks to wrap up this podcast, to sum it all up?
Yeah, so on the back of what Isabel said, I big on using affirmations. And some of you guys know that I like to use tapping. And tapping, we start with the negative self-talk and tap our way through it. And we're not doing a tapping session right now. But we need to then add it to positive, because otherwise we're just kind of taken stuff out and left a space for stuff to get into. So using positive affirmations is then the next bit that we want to do, that Isabel was just talking about.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Isabel. And just to give a quick recap, we covered things like fear of failure. And the way that we work through a lot of that with the clients is asking a lot of questions repetitively, and then creating a pattern of self-talk to help them move out of it, or to use other techniques like tapping or other modalities, whether it's a rubber band, whether it's positive self-talk, whether it's just meditation. When you get in a negative space, you need to get out of that space. So please join us next week when we're going to be talking about personal power and self-talk. Thank you very much for joining. I look forward to seeing everybody next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.